Tonight on Podcast Them Down, we find out which MANOWAR album was born to live forevermore and which MANOWAR albums are leaving the hall. That's right, it's the short fucking intro because we need to get right to it to find the winner of the March MANOWAR Madness bracket, now firmly into April. So I am Tim from U.S. American power metal band Burning Shadows, dual violin folk metal band Eisenmore, recently vacated Grave True Zombie Metal and Fade to Black Metallica tribute, and I'm joined by the esteemed drummer of both Eisenmore and Burning Shadows, Dave. I'm joined by Matt is giving me a look.
No, I didn't realize Dave was both of those things. That's why I was pleasantly surprised.
All right, Matt's here. And then Doug, which I'm sure you will be able to hear, is wearing a high-quality shirt that he no doubt purchased from SteelResolve.com, your home for metal merchandise of the aforementioned bands. And a few others.
A lot of great independent metal merchandise is available at SteelResolve.com.
SteelResolve.com.
You know, my shirt is also actually from SteelResolve.com, and I got a bunch of Eisenmore shirts and Burning Shadow shirts and snipped them up and recreated this MANOWAR shirt out of just old SteelResolve.com.
Just to be very clear, we are not selling bootleg MANOWAR shirts at SteelResolve.com. I know people.
Tell them what they want, and they'll order it for you.
I personally know
service.
people. I personally know people who have received cease and desist orders from MANOWAR. So let's be crystal clear.
Joey, save that postage. You don't need to send us one.
This is a very good time for a story, and I know we don't have time for stories, but I'll keep it brief. I was once running the merch table at a Burning Shadows show, and Burning Shadows was opening for a
Iron Maiden
Jersey-based Iron Maiden tribute Sanctuary. And so a really drunk pair of gentlemen came up to me and said, "Do you have Sanctuary CDs, man?" And I said, "No, these are Burning Shadow CDs." He's like, "Well, we're really looking for Sanctuary CDs. Do you sure you don't have Sanctuary CDs, man?" I'm like, "Well, they're a cover band, so you'd really want Iron Maiden CDs, wouldn't you?" They're like, "Oh yeah, do you have Iron Maiden CDs, man?" And I held up the two Burning Shadow CDs and I said, "Yes, these are them." And they bought them.
Thank you, Matt.
Hey, I looked up Sanctuary. They were active as recently as a year ago.
Oh, nice.
So they're still around, and we still don't carry Sanctuary CDs.
No, we do not. But we do have Iron Maiden CDs, especially the Darkest Winter EP.
100 copies of Peace of Mind.
All right, so
That's the only one we carry. Yeah.
So we are now in part 4. Holy shit.
Wow.
I expected this to be half as long, but a decision this epic requires weeks upon weeks of deliberation. You can't half-ass this because we're talking about MANOWAR.
Right.
Or are you saying, Dave, that I talked over?
No. It's just, it can't be a spur-of-the-moment decision. There's got to be some reasoned debate.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we are now in the semifinals. So the standings as they stand now is in the first standing stands the re-recording of Battle Hymns versus Fighting the World. Oh, and then the other semifinal. We don't have clever names for this because we're now crossing eras. We were able to define things earlier as pre and post Ross the Boss. Or I guess Ross the Boss and post Ross the Boss. But now that's out the window because we're getting towards the Mano final and the Mano winner. So the other semifinal is Louder Than Hell versus Kings of Metal.
Wow. Bloodbath right there.
I do not envy the guys who have to make this decision.
All right, well, it's time to make this decision.
Oh, fuck.
So let us start with the re-recording of Battle Hymns, also known as Battle Hymns MMXI versus Fighting the World. And I feel like we can breeze through a lot of this and get to what matters. So as in all the past episodes, we are going to each award a point to various categories to one of the albums. Art, recording, lineup, music, lyrics, and miscellaneous. And whichever album has received the most points or the highest average, turns out it's arithmetic. It's math-wise, it's equivalent, so it doesn't matter. And then whichever one, we'll move on to the final, and then we'll do the final. And then after the final, we'll have a winner of the March MANOWAR Madness Bracket. Fuck yeah. All right. I need some more energy from the rest of you.
Woo! Clarify that Tim said, I feel like, and this is not about feeling.
No, yeah, that's true.
And we're going to take all the time we need to come to the right decision.
This is not going to be rushed. This is going to be slow, deliberate, and well thought out.
Wherever the discovery work takes us, that's where we go.
You know, justice doesn't have a timeline. That's why she's not looking at a watch.
That's for March Metallica Madness.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right.
All that being said, my point goes to Battle Hymns and the art. For art.
So you like this... the eagle with the man pectorals and the armor.
It's got the right kind of fascist vibe, and it's distinctively MANOWAR in a way that the Kiss cover, again, iconic art, but not unique to MANOWAR.
Yeah, well, as others have done in past episodes, I'm going to also give my point to Battle Hymns, but for different reasons. And once again, I hearken back to Fighting the World being the butt of a joke. You know, it's comical. You cannot laugh at this golden eagle of metal with armor and man pectorals. You just can't. It's not funny. It's fucking serious business. This. You can.
I'm laughing right now.
I don't know about you, but often my eyes are drawn right toward Joey DeMaio's cartoony crotch, which, you know, is not where I want to be looking. I want to be looking at the swords or the lightning, or better yet, you know, just put an eagle in there.
And I think we have to reiterate again, and I don't even know if this counts, but there is no explicit content on that record.
Oh yeah. So there is
the standards in that label.
There is a parental advisory explicit content sticker on my copy of Fighting the World.
Maybe it's Joey DeMaio's crotch.
Maybe it's maybe it's violence and bloodshed.
Yeah, maybe.
Yes, the song about Nam.
Oh, we'll get there. We'll get there in this one. Oh, finally.
I just wanted to drop a reminder, Tim.
Thank you for that. All right,
my art point goes to Battle Hymns, specifically because the eagle, in addition to having man abs and man pecs, has really gigantic jacked thighs, and I can't think of any other eagle with thick, meaty thighs, and I can't not give a point to that.
Fair enough. And I guess I'm going to be the one dissenting at this point. So put my point into a completely separate bucket from everybody else's under Fighting the World, because I think monochromaticism has its own stark beauty and certain artistic appeal. But for me, MANOWAR is not that place. I want color. I want vibrancy. I want some glistening flesh with my MANOWAR, non-metallic flesh. And for those reasons, I'm getting that point over to the Fighting the World side.
I feel like Dave's in the pocket of the lithography lobby.
All right, here we go. Recording. All right, I know we had a lot of praise for Battle Hymn before because it had that modern production, but it was against their earliest and one could surmise lowest budget CD. But now it's against Fighting the World, which was their first probably good sounding album.
Yep.
And we're firmly, by the time the re-recording of Battle Hymns came out, we were firmly in the loudness wars. You had to master everything very loud, no dynamic range to get to just sound louder without just turning it up, right? But we're talking about MANOWAR here, who was at one time, if not still are, the loudest band on the planet. So, unlike the Metallica CD that came out around the same time as this, the brick wall mastering doesn't bother me as much on Battle Hymns as it does on Death Magnetic. Like, it's unlistenable. Death Magnetic is the original master. I'll save this for Metallica, but if you're going to listen to Death Magnetic, you have to get the remaster. And it's one of the few times a remaster made a difference.
And I think we need to talk about the paradox that is Rick Rubin.
Uh-huh.
Who
that's going to be...
was David for that episode.
I agree. Yeah, so... so just in terms of recording, I feel like they had all their ducks in a row by the time they got to Battle Hymns, and then they blew it when they did the re-recording of Kings of Metal. Fighting the World has that 80s sound, which, like it or not, doesn't really stand up to the modern techniques, in my opinion. So my point is going to the Battle Hymns re-recording, but I can understand why someone would incorrectly choose Fighting the World.
So I'm going to incorrectly choose Fighting the World. It's really easy to get things right on the second time around. Fighting the World gets it right out of the gate. They figured out the sound. They figured out the mix. They figured out the recording. They didn't wait. What's this? Like 30 years later to re-record this album. I mean, I can do anything I did 30 years ago better now, except for maybe like fit into an XL t-shirt. So, you know what? Fighting the World.
Point of order. SteelResolve.com goes up to 5XL. 5XL is available on SteelResolve.com. So, if you fall into an industrial sized vat of ice cream and have to eat your way out, you can still buy a shirt off SteelResolve.com that's going to fit you.
As unlikely as a portly metal fan might be, SteelResolve.com provides.
Sounds unlikely.
To be clear, no MANOWAR shirts are available.
Thank you. Was that the last episode?
Certainly no Fighting the World shirts. And that's a shame, because if there were Fighting the World shirts, I'd definitely buy one, because I think it's got the best recording sound out of these two records. I feel like Battle Hymns you can listen to kind of anywhere and have it be midline acceptable, but when you slap on a good set of headphones and listen to Fighting the World without like road noise in the car, or without like bullshit coming through some other audio source, it just transports me to a certain space and time through its character. So yeah, my points go into Fighting the World.
I am going to go along with the thrust of that argument, minus the proggy stuff that Dave said, and give it to Fighting the World.
Nice.
Wow. Well, how does it feel for all of you to be wrong? All right, for lineup, the difference in these lineups is just the guitarist, and obviously the point is going to go to Ross the Boss. Like, I don't think there's much to discuss.
Nope.
All right, time for music. All right,
This is
so
hard.
well, all right. I feel like I have to. Doug admonished me earlier for saying I feel like, but you know, metal is feeling. Metal is everything. Metal is being. So, when talking about MANOWAR, it's perfectly acceptable to bring to mind how you feel because it encompasses your entire being. And
There are 3 or 4 acceptable feelings and some that are not acceptable in the context of MANOWAR, to be clear.
You know, I do want to argue some MANOWAR scripture for a second, because in the song Heart of Steel, and I need to actually check to make sure I don't misquote it, it's say what you feel.
Oh.
So close, but they do encourage expression of whatever feeling it is that you happen to be currently experiencing.
Yeah, it
they
is pretty
do.
metal, just boarding out.
that's right.
Feelings.
Possibly inappropriately.
So
Whatever
I'm
you're feeling.
confused.
So I am looking at these two albums, and there's one thing that sticks out to me. Battle Hymns has one filler track. William's Tale. A stupid bass solo that he had a second chance to make interesting and failed. Meanwhile, Fighting the World has way more filler. So my point has to go to Battle Hymns for music.
I accept Tim's rational argument, not based on feelings, based on something subjective.
Fuck.
And I'm
Hey.
also going to give my point to Battle Hymns.
Fuck. Fighting the World. I still feel like it's a better musical sound.
There's more feelings.
It has more feelings.
A lot of feelings.
No, I was complaining
And-
about your feelings.
And I like the take on Earth, Wind, and Fire, Black Wind, Fire, and Steel.
Sounds like that was a Prague point, but maybe that's just a feeling on my part.
Dave, did you award a point?
My point's going to go to Battle Hymn, the re-recorded version, because as I think I probably said on another podcast episode, that's a song that Burning Shadows covers is Battle Hymn. And the way that I hear it in my head is the way that they recorded it a second time. And that alone, musically for me, gives the edge to that record.
That's a great point.
And Doug, I believe we need a music point from you.
You've blocked out that I agreed with you for objective reasons. Excuse me.
Totally
Really?
logic based.
Yeah, you made a very rational case that I concurred with.
All right, lyrics. It is time for something I've been sitting on. I've been wanting to bring this up for a long time. So, the very first MANOWAR song, Death Tone. So if you just bought the album, the first album, and the first track you'd hear from MANOWAR is Death Tone. Death Tone is about riding your motorcycle and being bitter that you went to Vietnam and fought in Vietnam, and you got to stay home and work a job. Well, I had to fucking fight for your ass. And I went to jail and everything, right? And then Fighting the World, as Dave pointed out earlier, is also about violence and bloodshed, is also about Nam. The lyrics, let's see. Living in fear ain't living to me. I'm armed with a gun defending the free. They blew it in Nam, shot up my friends. I'm back in the street. The fight never ends. I was born with a gun in my hand. I'll die for my country, but I'll die like a man. Violence and bloodshed, violence and bloodshed. All right.
And then later, get a whole lot of. That's a great song. It's a great pay into vigilantism, if you will.
He goes on to say, "My brother's still in Da Nang, putting an ad in the back of Kerrang. We're looking for people who just want to kill. We'll go
it sounds
back
like
to
he's living a mercenary life.
We'll go back to Nam because no one else will." So I just think it's funny to me that that they spent the 80s talking about Nam. It was the first thing they sung about was fighting in Vietnam. But then they spent the 90s and beyond pretending that they were 30. And staying that way. They still pretend that they're 30. So suddenly they got to be timeless, and they're going to sound like someone's bitter uncle if they're going to keep talking about Vietnam all the goddamn time.
Well, clearly, Violence and Bloodshed was based in Rambo 2, and I would argue that the whatever that song is called is more. There's a whole trope of embittered, crazy Vietnam veteran movies that they probably saw. Which Rambo is an example.
Do you mean Rambo 2 or do you mean First Blood? First Blood 2 Rambo.
It appears to be the plot of Rambo First Blood 2.
The second one, where it's just the murder fest. I think maybe we should have a movie night.
We should definitely have a movie night.
Well,
Rambo 3 is amazing.
Dave and I are already planning to watch both Dunes.
Oh, that's right.
Oh God,
I love both Dunes. Can I come?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I have a lot to say about both of them.
Oh, maybe maybe it's a podcast episode then.
Did you know Timothée Chalamet is my second favorite Timothée?
Aw.
I would ask who the
all
first
of fun.
is.
The first one's all of fun.
Oh, I was gonna go with Tim Curry.
I do think Dave Spencer would have directed a better Dune movie.
One of my top 10 Timothys is
Lynch.
Timothy Liljegren on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Anyway, let's move on. So Vietnam stuff aside, I'm going to give my lyric point to Battle Hymns because it has the song MANOWAR.
Yeah.
Which
the titular
is MANOWAR's origin story and mission statement. So,
yeah.
And which they have more or less stuck to. So, yeah, that's where my point has to go.
You're absolutely right.
There's too much talk about rock and roll on Fighting the World. You're blowing your speakers with it, then you're demanding it from your DJ. No.
Yeah.
No, I don't want rock and roll. I want ManoWar.
Because not only do they have a self-titled track about themselves, they also have a song, the titular song of the album. So ManoWar's Battle Hymn are both songs on Battle Hymns. Or Battle Hymns. So
Battle Hymn is the song and Battle Hymns is the album.
Yeah, but fucking heavy metal is about feelings and not checking your spelling. And every plural is singular and every singular is plural. So give them my 1 points.
All right, we need more lyric points.
More lyric points. Well, Tim, I'm going to have to concur with you. I think ManoWar's mission statement / origin story deserves special recognition. And quite frankly, there's nothing that compelling on Fighting the World. There isn't a story epic like we have on other albums that can compete with the song MANOWAR. And of course, Dark Avenger itself is quite the narrative. So read by Christopher Lee on this iteration of the album, I think it's got the clear edge.
I'm going to transgress by also giving my point to Battle Hymns.
Oh, a clean sweep. Very nice. All right, for Miscellaneous, I'm going to refer to the back of these two albums. MANOWAR Fighting the World clearly says, I'm trying to get it to focus on the stream, but this boxed text right here says full digital recording in 1987. However, this one here, the re-recording of Battle Hymns, was definitely full digital. They just stopped bragging about it. The fact...
Because it was 2011.
Right, because it was
That's
2011.
not impressive.
MANOWAR was ahead of the technology curve because I believe And Justice for All and the follow-up, the Black Album, were both analog still. I'm reasonably sure. So years before even Metallica got to it, MANOWAR's already doing full digitals of their recording. So, you know, I'm gonna reward their proactiveness in jumping on the digital train before many other artists. 1987.
I wonder if it really means that, though.
Well, you can't write it on there if it's not true.
Yeah, it's in a box,
You
Doug.
just write it.
Yeah, the
digital.
CD is digital. You
Maybe
don't
it's
get
the CD
distortion.
itself that's digital and nothing else is digital. But, you know, misleading the customer is pretty metal in itself.
Yeah.
And it has one of those things that explains how a CD is good. It says the compact disc digital audio system offers the best possible sound reproduction on a small, convenient sound carrier unit. The compact disc's remarkable performance is the result of a unique combination of digital playback with laser optics. And it goes on and on.
Sorry about the
Fascinating.
case. They suck.
All right, well, how about this? If that's not enough for you to agree that Fighting the World should get the Miscellaneous point, in the
I'm
liner
going to
notes,
rely on
in the liner notes,
emotions and give it to Battle Hymns.
they have, well, maybe you should wait because in the liner notes, they have a list of the ladies auxiliary including various ladies named Sheila, Bonnie, Diane, Shirley, Millie, Lois, Betty, Susan, and so on. That was like a third of them. And then they have a vanguard of the elite. And then they have arms suppliers, which includes the Marshall people. So Marshall, PV, Bartolini, who makes pickups, Ernie Ball, Gibson, and so on. So they're like oddly militaristic in the Fighting the World liner notes, which is another good reason that Doug has made a mistake in giving his point to Battle Hymns.
If they were going to do that, why did they pick that cover, though?
And not this more militaristic cover?
Yeah, that cover looks like it's going to drag you into an alley and beat you up. Fighting the World does not.
Fair point, but we've already discussed the artwork.
True.
I'm looking to see.
I'd like to give my point
here.
I want to give mine to Fighting the World because it gives us the first iteration of our MANOWAR fan gesture. The universally understood sign of the hammer.
Battle Hymns lists their legal team. Seriously. So
wow.
I'm gonna have to
point is if if I didn't, it goes to fighting the world. Otherwise, I disrespect the rules, but live with the decision.
You can recast something that you've melted.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you can melt your point.
So wait, I didn't give my point yet.
Well, give your point.
So my point goes to fighting the world.
Oh, a clean sweep.
Because Orson Welles is better than Christopher Lee.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate but true statement.
Yeah. I mean, Christopher Lee is great. He played a sexy Dracula in 1958. But nonetheless, Orson Welles is better. If I had to have a gross, boozy lunch with either of those dead gentlemen, I would pick Orson Welles any day of the week.
Who would have made a better Count Dooku?
Orson Welles, Doug.
Yeah, you're right.
It's Dooku.
What did I ask?
He doesn't have a lightsaber.
But episode 1 is such trash. But that's a different episode.
God, it was episode 2. Jesus.
Oh, you know what? I don't fucking care. Anyway,
hey man, I'm the one with the Jar Jar Binks poster over my shoulder.
oh shit, I do see it.
Wow.
I was
I put that
distracted
up
by
for
the
the Star
ManoWar
Trek
poster over
episodes.
your shoulder. Dude, the Jar Jar Binks is in the shot, and very little of the ManoWar is in the shot. on the stream. So all the Twatchers know you're all about Jar Jar, but they don't know you're all about ManoWar.
Big Jar Jar fan.
That seems about right.
All right, so by the narrowest of margins, the winner of the first semifinals of Steel is, in fact, fighting the world. Holy shit.
Wow.
Who could have seen that coming? All right, moving on to the other half of the semifinals. Kings of Metal versus Louder Than Hell. Right off the bat, I'm going to...
This is harder.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, Matt, before, you know, ManoWar covers are about flags and blood, and we have mentioned on earlier episodes also crowns and rings, and all of these feature prominently in the Kings of Metal artwork. If I unfold the Louder Than Hell artwork, we do get blood, we get weapons, we get a crown and the ring, but we don't get any flags.
Mm-hmm.
I would have added more flags because there's only a few on Kings of Metal. I see the US, I see Netherlands, Norway, Germany, Switzerland, UK, Italy, France. Oh, another Germany, so the other one must be Belgium. And
I
then
think it's
Sweden.
Belgium.
And that's it. That's it. So I could have used more flags, but I'll live with the flags I was given. My point goes to Kings of Metal.
Yeah, it's Kings of Metal. It has and let's be very clear. This is not the re-recording reissue in which the flags are standing.
Right.
This is the strewn on the ground of jagged rocks. Every flag except for the Old Glory Stars and Stripes.
And Germany.
And part of Germany and part of
Germany.
The Netherlands for some reason. But yeah, this has everything. This has everything you need. It has abs, it has pecs, it has a crown, it has a ring, it has lightning, it has flags, it has the faceless warrior. It's a ManoWar cover. Give that album my point.
Yeah, I was going to call all this flag bullshit out, but no, the flags are really integral to the pummeling dominance of this cover. So give my point to Kings of Metal.
Well, the whole point is that they are fighting the world, and these are the countries they have defeated with their true metal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the natural extension of the central theme of their existence. And I've got a long rambling story to tell.
But before you do that, I just want to point out that they have not defeated Ukraine with their true metal, because apparently that's difficult.
Can't be done. So in 2007, I was at Vakken Open Air.
I have to interrupt you again. Just a disclaimer. We are recording this in mid-March. And by the time this airs, that joke may not work. All right, go ahead, Dave.
So it was the final evening. The shows were over. And as I am heading back to try to figure out how I'm going to get back to Hamburg and then back to the United States, I run into a guy named Wolfgang, who, Tim, I think you know.
Oh, yeah. I know of him.
Who promptly recognizes me. He had met us the year before because he had been wearing a Maryland flag around as a cape. And we naturally, went over and said hi. Right. So he spots me in this exodus after the festival and is like, "Hey, man, you need a ride?"
David?
Because he was with friends. So I hitch a ride in a private car, like not on a bus transport, out of Vakken into Hamburg, and I am given a place to sleep on the floor. And of course, we arrive in at like 3 a.m, and I don't see much because the lights are off so as not to disturb any of the roommates. And I wake up the following morning getting ready to get to the train station and then to the airport and so on back to the United States. And I wake up, and as the August light of north streams through the window, I see to my left the Kings of Metal album in giant poster form. And it has been this kind of specter, like an apparition of religious significance almost, throughout my life. I've got a copy that, our Twatchers can't probably see very well. But it's just the quintessential MANOWAR cover, the stark white of the title on the equally stark red logo. It's just can't be beat. My point goes to Kings of Metal, despite the fact that Louder Than Hell is probably my overall favorite MANOWAR album, and I own 2 MANOWAR posters, and the second one is Louder Than Hell.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a very powerful story, Dave. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks for listening.
That's not something anyone can get over. Just like, yeah, it's transcendent, man.
Yeah, it's a graven memory for sure.
Was that all the art points?
That was it. That's the I think that's everything, right?
That's it.
Well, let's move on
Recording.
to recording. So, Kings of Metal, late 80s sound, Louder Than Hell, mid 90s sound. This one's tough. All right.
This is hard.
All right. So to decide this, I'm going to focus on one specific area of Kings of Metal, and that is the Warrior's Prayer. And if you are not familiar, it is a narrated story with sound effects. And
I know where you're going, and you're right.
It ends with, "Grandfather, who were they? Who were they? They were the Metal Kings." And then Blood of the Kings starts. So if you just go and listen to the Warrior's Prayer, it's quiet as fuck. It's so quiet. And I believe this whole strategy wasn't good fidelity. It was turn up your speakers. Because when Blood of the Kings hits, it hits fucking hard. And I think it was a brilliant move to make the Warrior's Prayer long and quiet so that Blood of the Kings hits you that much harder. There are quiet parts of Louder Than Hell, but, My Spirit Lives On is just like a solo that goes on for a while and then followed by The Power. They could, if they turned down My Spirit Lives On, and so that you had to turn up and get hit with The Power, then it would be harder to decide. But my money's on Kings of Metal for recording.
Such a great call out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's an extremely difficult decision to make. I personally prefer the 90s sound, and there is something about the guitar, just that chugging crunch. It's so dry and decisive, that shows up from Return of the Warlord and just kind of maintains its way on through. I really like that sound. I can't really elaborate a whole lot more on that. I think, Tim, you raise a very good point that Kings of Metal has a better dynamic range than Louder Than Hell does. But for me, Louder Than Hell has always been a driving album. It's been, to kick off a long trip, get me into the end of that first hour feeling really good.
My long trip album has always been The Odyssey.
I can see that.
But, I'm going to put on Louder Than Hell by Symphony X. I'm going to put on Louder Than Hell eventually.
Fun fact. My long trip album is Gather Darkness.
Good album. But when you've heard that album as many times as I have, you're going to
that's probably true. That's probably true. But when you start on a trip with with like the overture and then like the first song, you're like, I'm moving now. Especially on a plane.
And Gather Darkness is quite a dynamic album that we are very proud of. Available at burningshadows.bandcamp.com.
Also, steelresolve.com.
Actually, it's not available.
Your source for all. Well,
I stopped.
You get a shirt or something.
It used to be available there, but this is a subject for a different day. But we stopped selling music on Steel Resolve and only sell merch.
Oh, well,
and
that's a thing.
Yep.
Yeah. At any rate, you can put my point under the Louder Than Hell column, or I guess row for this round.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. This is a pattern of agreeing with Dave, but Dave is right. Louder Than Hell is a much more listenable album. You mentioned the dynamic range. I like that little tidbit you mentioned, but I also hate having to adjust the volume. I want to keep the volume at one place and blow up my eardrums. I don't want to hear the story when grandfather talking and then like having to play around with knobs and shit. The knob should be at 11 and stay at 11. And that's why Louder Than Hell wins.
Oh, real men play at 10, but
right.
What do I know?
That's all. That album didn't last very long in our competition here.
The right answer is Louder Than Hell.
Except it's not. All right, we can blow right by the lineup because it's once again Ross the Boss. All right, music.
Oh yeah.
My point for music has to go to Kings of Metal because I have 3 words for you. Heart of Steel. Like, as great as every song on Louder Than Hell is, every single song is fantastic, but none of them are Heart of Steel. None of them are Hail and Kill. None of them are Kings of Metal. I'm sorry, they're just not.
My 1 point has to go to Louder Than Hell because of 2 words for you. Pleasure Slave.
Yeah. I was about to go there.
I'm glad you brought up Pleasure Slave. So I believe I almost brought this up in the first episode, but here we are in the 4th episode, and we need to talk about it now. Pleasure Slave is a terrible song. It's technically a bonus track, which on the CD is inexplicably sandwiched between Kingdom Come and Hail and Kill. So,
yeah, that old 7 spot for the bonus track.
So that's
on a 10-song album.
So good friends of ours, A Sound of Thunder, started a MANOWAR tribute called MANOWAR. And yeah, they even had the logo and everything with the W looking like the MANOWAR M, and they covered MANOWAR. obviously. So they have a female singer. So when they sang songs such as Hail and Kill, and I believe they released a recording of Pleasure Slave, they flipped around the genders.
Wow.
And it's amazing. So in Hail and Kill, there's a line where they say, may your sword stay wet like a young girl in her prime. They changed it to, may your sword stay hard like a young man in his prime. And if that's not brilliant enough, go listen to Pleasure Slave. It is fantastic. So the MANOWAR version of Pleasure Slave I skip because it's gross. Because these guys are from New York. You know, they're all greasy and they wear leather all the time, so they probably stink. And they're like, yeah, she's waiting. And it's 80s, so all the girls have big hair. But so, like, the whole song comes off
Painting
as
a real
gross.
picture here, Tim. I like
I
it.
know. I can smell it.
But when MANOWAR does it and it's dudes, it doesn't come off as gross. You know, it probably comes off as how it was supposed to come off when they originally wrote the song. So
I think
that is
the
a
song
major
comes off-
ding
Yeah.
on Kings of Metal, but still it is a bonus track. I don't consider it part of the album, and I skip it.
Yeah, that's one you have to make sure doesn't come on at parties. I mean, back in the day when people had parties where you would put a CD in, like it's like, oh yeah, let's listen to MANOWAR. Oh, someone's got Kings of Metal. Yeah, like be quick and make sure to get it by track 6.
Like,
I am an unapologetic Pleasure Slave apologist, if such a thing can be said. I love Pleasure Slave for all of the reasons that it's deplorable. It's sleazy, it's gross, it's clumsily and offensively written. I just love the greasy riff. And
Even the riff is greasy. Like,
oh yeah,
even
it's
the
just
riff-
so slimy. And you raise an excellent point about MANOWAR, and gotta be honest, my wife happens to find Pleasure Slave very amusing.
That's why
So,
you like it. That's why you
Yeah, that's why I like it.
I'm gonna throw up.
You disgust me, sir.
Put it on, Dave.
But yeah, so it's listed as a bonus track, but both the cassette and the CD have it on there. So, like, what version didn't have it?
The version in the universe where God exists.
All right, so I don't know. In all the sleaze and stink, I lost track of where the points are.
No kidding. What category are we even in?
We're in music.
We're in music.
The actual music. Kings of Metal deserves the win just because it's more innovative, let's say. Not innovative, but more interesting than Louder Than Hell. Like,
So
Heart of
whose
Steel
point
is
was
so-
louder than hell? Was that yours, Matt?
That was my point
All
as
right.
counterpoint to your point.
All
Because
right.
you said 3 words and I said 2 words. And
All
then
right,
we
so
got on a
that-
gross, moist pleasure slave tangent.
All right, so we need a music point from Doug.
It's Kings of Metal. And I'm really looking at the word music here. And then I see the word lyrics is next.
Right. So that is a good point.
That's a great point.
In this case, I feel like music and lyrics go hand in hand. Because for these 2 albums, they're pretty much inseparable.
Yeah.
But I do want to have a special call out again to number 1, which is apparently about a sport where you don't know the outcome until you do a great deal of math at the end.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe it's boxing, you know, and it has to go to the judge's decision, or UFC. Those are both like metal
Figure skating.
sports.
potentially.
Oh,
Something
figure
very
skating is very metal because it requires
Quantifiably.
superhuman feats, and then at the end, it's completely objective.
Right? It's a very anti-democratic scoring system, which is quite metal.
Right. So.
The lyrics get louder than hell. It's so tough, but because the song I'm not gonna. There's one song that disqualifies the otherwise fantastic lyrics of Kings of Metal.
Yeah, I too am gonna give my lyrics point to Louder Than Hell.
Yep, I think I'm gonna have to concur and give that lyrics point to Louder Than Hell. It's such a congenial record. It's so many feel good songs. There's something about Kings of Metal that I have to be in the right mood for. Like there's that hyper violence I think inherent to that album more so than Louder Than Hell that I need to be like amped for. But with Louder Than Hell, it's all about, getting back together, riding your bikes and drinking beers with your buds and being metal.
Saying metal every third word.
Decisions that are yours alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am going to give my point to Kings of Metal here. Because I believe they gave words to a song without words. Does the Rimsky-Korsakov song have words in it?
What, Sting of the Bumblebee?
Yeah.
No.
Not at all?
It's instrumental.
It shouldn't.
It's an instrumental, but how come the track listing says lyrics transcribed by Bob Peeran?
Oh.
What lyrics are there?
I don't know.
Well, they just printed them in the liner notes, square away.
Well, the
Be pretty metal. Don't get more elitist than that.
The blah, blah, blah. Sting of the Bumblebee is the first time that there was a Joey DeMaio bass solo that was any good.
Yeah.
So that we should have brought that up during music, but Kings of Metal already won for music, and lost for lyrics, by the way.
So it's just very strange why you have a liner note that says lyrics transcribed by on an instrumental song.
Well, maybe
which makes me think
maybe it's like the Star Trek theme has lyrics.
Yeah.
So like Roddenberry could get a little bit of that sweet music royalties.
Because it's very confusing. So because of this confusion, I have to give my point to Kings of Metal.
That's fair. All right, for Miscellaneous, a MANOWAR show is not complete unless you hear at least one song off Kings of Metal, and the data backs me up. For MANOWAR album statistics, Kings of Metal, songs off Kings of Metal have been played 1,059 times as of recording.
Wow.
Whereas Louder Than Hell is less than half of that at 473 times. And that alone tells you that Kings of Metal is the MANOWAR album. If you had to buy one album, it would be Kings of Hell, and you'd skip over Pleasure Slave unless you're Dave.
Indeed.
So my point easily goes to Kings of Metal, and so does Dave's.
That's right.
I mean,
what I want to know is where are you finding these MANOWAR live stats? This is awesome.
Why, that comes from setlist.fm, not a sponsor.
Fantastic.
It's statistics.
I mean, you can't argue with statistics. Give that point to Kings of Metal.
All I want to know.
We have
I'm
one
going
more
to
point.
dissent by giving my point to Kings of Metal.
This is huge.
Oh, another
This is huge.
clean sweep. So, Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sorry, Dave, but Kings of Metal has trounced Louder Than Hell to defeat it in the semifinals of Steel number 2. All right, so the winners of the 2 semifinals are Fighting the World versus Kings of Metal. Let me check the clock. Shit, in theory, we could stop right now and make a 5th episode. But you know what?
We're not going to do that.
We're not going to do that. We are going to press
Fuck you.
We're going to finish this right now. And those who were hoping for 5 consecutive ManoWar episodes, 6 consecutive ManoWar episodes, you can leave the hall right now because we got to move on to other things.
I mean, even though that sounds pretty metal, and I'm not sure why you would leave the hall, but still.
And this is one of those, like when one of those teams makes it to the last round and then just the underdog and then they just blow it. But we'll see.
Oh, my prediction is that's exactly what's going to happen. All right.
I mean, I'm glad we made this decision because the podcast and downers literally wouldn't be able to sleep if we gave them one more episode of this. They would just be waiting for the upload and be miserable.
Here we go with the Mano final. Final round of Steel. Fighting the World versus Kings of Metal. Starting with artwork. Should I just go ahead and put 4 points in for Kings of Metal? Because there's no way the Kings of Metal artwork is in any way inferior to Fighting the World.
No chance.
This might be a brutal victory.
It might be. All right. Next category is recording. These albums were recorded very close together.
Yeah.
And the recording quality is very similar. However, I have to once again refer to the Warrior's Prayer as a clever technique to make you turn it up, because ManoWar has always wanted you to turn it up. They were, and probably still are, the loudest band on the planet for no reason. But if they can get you to be the loudest band in your living room, that's a separate feat in itself. And I, unlike most Americans, still have a stereo setup in my living room. So with speakers, and it's not connected to a TV or anything. So in this domicile, Kings of Metal reigns supreme over Fighting the World for recording quality.
You're using a Sonos or Bluetooth?
I use a Sony CD player built in the 90s. In fact, I have two different CD players, one of which supports indexing, which fell out of favor around the time that Kings of Metal came out.
Wow.
So indexing, for those who don't know, are tracks, are a subdivision of tracks. So you can move to different parts of a song if they added index numbers. That's right.
The Tiffany is so
I have a CD player that supports this. It's in the Red Book standard. Nerd. Oh, this is the best. That's the best nerd sound I got.
It's Kings of Metal.
It's Kings of Metal all the way.
Oh shit! This might get brutal.
I'm gonna give this to Fighting the World because you mentioned on another album this little all digital box. But according to my information here, Fighting the World was also one of the first heavy metal albums to be recorded and mixed entirely on digital equipment. We're so close here. These are a 1 year apart. I'm going to give it to Fighting the World just because it predates the digital recording experience of Kings of Metal.
All right, I'm going to ask this not to sway any scores, but was Kings of Metal also all digital? And the reason I ask is, like, did they have such a great time recording digital that they said, that was great, let's do it again?
It appears it was. I mean, I'm just looking at the production crew. There's a whole digital programming guy. I'm thinking it was.
The Wikipedia page says in 2017, Loudwire ranked it as the 13th best power metal album of all time. So I'm going to have to, you talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to look up what beat it and find out why they're wrong. And someone to argue, by the way, that MANOWAR is not power metal.
I was about to go there, Tim. They're not power metal. And whatever fucking bullshit genre Wikipedia has made up for them, epic metal, they're not that either.
No, I agree. No, he's right. He's right. I don't know why you're laughing. He's right.
I just like his conviction.
All right, so here are the 12 albums ahead of Kings of Metal, according to this bullshit Loudwire thing. Blind Guardian, Follow the Blind, Sonata Arctica, Winter Hearts Guild, Nightwish, Oceanborn, Rhapsody, Power of the Dragonflame, Symphony X, The Divine Wings of Tragedy, Lost Horizon, A Flame from the Ground Beneath, Stradivarius Visions, Symphony X, The Odyssey, Gamma Ray, Land of the Free, Halloween, Keeper of the Seven Keys, Part 1, Blind Guardian, Imagination from the Other Side, and Halloween, Keeper of the Seven Keys, Part 2. So this article is bullshit because most of that isn't power metal. So these fucking posers need to leave the hall until they figure out what the fuck power metal is. All right.
Is Loudwire owned by Halloween?
All right. So let's get back to the matter at hand. Recording. I think we're done with it, right?
Kings of Metal with them because that ain't power metal either. But yeah.
That's right. You're right. So lineup, they have identical lineup, so we can just split the points there. Music, we come back once again to Kings of Metal, which is full of great music.
Oh, this is so
and
hard.
Fighting the World, which I feel like I would need to like sit there with the sheet music, but I'm pretty sure Fighting the World has a lot more major chords than Kings of Metal, which major chords are. So Fighting the World, the title track itself starts with a G major. There's a big old B in that G.
I don't want to rush to conclusions here. We'll hang around, Tim, while you do the math.
All right, I'll look into it. Speak
I mean,
yourself.
from a cursory just like anecdotal look at this, I'd say that Tim's 100% correct. There is definitely a more upbeat 80s pop metal feel to the music on Fighting the World. And Carry On as well is very much that like rock anthem for the stadium. So I'd say that there's some sense to what Tim's proposing here.
All right, well, while looking into this in the past few seconds, I've noticed two things. First of all, Fighting the World has far more filler than Kings of Metal. Kings of Metal has no filler unless you consider Pleasure Slave to be part of the album.
This discussion has gone on long enough. My point goes to
on top
Kings
of that,
Metal.
I just want to say real quick, Sting of the Bumblebee has a lot of notes. And nothing on here has a lot of notes.
It does have a lot of notes.
So you get more music if you define music as number of notes on Kings of Metal. And Doug's right. We should just move on and give all 4 points to Kings of Metal, unless anyone disagrees.
Notes per album? Sure.
And that's really how MANOWAR would quantify quality in music.
All right, so that's another clean sweep. So let's move on to lyrics and give that a clean sweep to Kings of Metal as well. You know why? Because never once do they mention rock and roll on Kings of Metal. It's not King. Okay, this is louder than hell. I picked up. Never once do they call themselves the king of rock and roll. They're the kings of metal. And then here, you're blowing your speakers with rock and roll. You're demanding rock and roll from your DJ. No, fuck that. I want the kings of metal.
I mean,
and that's the name of the album.
But they have a whole track with lyrics transcribed by this guy Bob Buren, which we don't think has any lyrics. And they have another track which are the lyrics of Pleasure Slave.
Did they mention rock and roll and Pleasure Slave? No, they do not.
I mean, no, but I kind of am more comfortable with rock and roll than the things they talk about in Pleasure Slave.
Which is a bonus track and not part of the album proper.
Okay,
So
I mean,
Interestingly, on Wikipedia, it says that the Asian track listing, it doesn't specify which area of Asia, is only 9 tracks.
Okay.
And it is missing Pleasure Slave. It also specifies that Pleasure Slave is the CD version of the album only, although Tim, you said that the cassette had it. But maybe the LP didn't have it. Maybe there wasn't room on the LP, and that was jammed in there.
okay, so you can give my point to Kings of Metal, but only if we specify that my point is specifically going to the Asian track listing of this album.
I think that's fair. Do you really think they had the Asian distributor doesn't just cover Japan, or is there a separate? Because you always hear of Japanese bonus tracks, but you never hear of mainland China bonus tracks.
Yeah. There's
I feel like
reason.
the distributor in Japan is always working harder than probably elsewhere in Asia.
I feel like there's some guy in Singapore who's like, I'm not having that track on here.
That wouldn't fly. Yeah.
So Metal Nation, if you know about Asian CD distribution, we'd like to know. Does only Japan get the bonus tracks, or is the Japanese distributor also distributing to other parts of Asia? So write in.
It has something
in whatever method you feel is the most true.
I will defer to the opinion of the mob who responds, but it has something to do with tariffs in Japan. They have to. The importing a CD can be cheaper, so that's why they load it with the bonus tracks.
Oh, to prevent people from getting cheaper export CDs.
Yeah, to give them a reason to buy the domestic release.
That's interesting.
So I paid quite a lot of money to have a copy of And Justice for All by Metallica with one bonus track released in Japan. And the CD tray is white.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What was the bonus track?
The Prince, which is a cover of a Diamond Head song. All right, so
I so far have not bought the Japanese version of Demolition, which includes a Judas Priest Demolition, includes a bonus track that is like the one song Tim Ripper Owens has a writing credit for. It sounds like a Marilyn Manson song.
Oh.
We should have a Tim Owens episode. That'd be fascinating.
Yeah.
How he's essentially a professional replacement.
Poor Tim Owens.
All right. Well, he's a good boy from Dayton.
Yep, that he is.
All right, so was that a clean sweep for lyrics for Kings of Metal? Because I believe it was.
I believe it was.
All right, so miscellaneous. You keep bringing up Pleasure Slave, and it doesn't sit right with me. So I need to cast my point to the album that does not have Pleasure Slave on it, Fighting the World. That's where my miscellaneous point is going to go.
I dissent with Tim by also giving a point along exactly the same line of thought.
Well, I'm glad we disagree to agree.
This is fair, and I think I'd like to highlight the overall uplifting nature of Fighting the World. It's a very positive message. apart from the whole violence and bloodshed aspect. And I'd like to, kind of transgressively decide that even in the interests of keeping things fair, we might want to send mine to fighting the world.
I'm very torn here. So
I know you want to trounce fighting the world and give it give it the lowest score possible.
I don't know here though, because like Kings of Metal is the last Ross the Boss album.
It is
It's the last.
That is a good thing to bring up. So after fighting the world, Ross the Boss did Kings of Metal. After Kings of Metal, Ross the Boss joined a punk band. I mean, like, that's weird.
Started in punk music.
It's also the last Scott Columbus album until he came back.
2 hours later.
I feel I'm
There's
very
that word
torn.
again.
There's okay. I interject and opine that I'm very torn. Fighting the World has an Orson Welles track, which I've laid down a lot of points for Mr. Welles,
Which may or may not disrespect his legacy.
which certainly does not probably disrespect his legacy. But I feel like Kings of Metal is a turning point, a significant turning point in the history of MANOWAR in a way Fighting the World is not, because Joey DeMaio insisted on recording Pleasure Slave and the best members of the band walked. At least that's how it happened up here. So that's why my point, as the last true MANOWAR album in many respects, it has to go with Kings of Metal.
Ow. All right. So are you ready for the results?
I feel like this is taking up a lot of my life.
It has, but it's okay. It was worth it. So the winner of the March MANOWAR Madness Final and the winner of the entire March MANOWAR Madness Bracket is, as everyone expected, Kings of Metal.
Holy shit.
It was never a contest. We didn't have to spend 4 episodes on this, but you know what? In another way, we really did. We really had to go through it all and verify that Kings of Metal is, in fact, the best MANOWAR album.
The counting is done.
The counting is done. We have assigned number 1. We have rewarded it the crown and the ring. And until next time, Metal Nation, keep it MANOWAR!
All right, that was worth 16 hours of our time.
I know.
Yes, it was.
Wow.